Welcome. I'm so glad you could join us today. I think you'll find the next few moments very informative, educational, and stimulating. I'd like to welcome candidate for Laramie County Sheriff Mike Tuttle. Welcome, Mike. It's good to have you here today.
Thank you, Gina.
There have been many questions that are going around with folks that they want answers to so they can make a good, well-informed decision come Election Day at the polls. Today we're going to cover some of those questions from you and have you answer, where you're standing and what you're believing in and why, folks should consider you so strongly at the polls. Of course, there are 4 candidates that are running in this sheriff's election. What do you think, or why do you think that is?
Well, I think it's an indication of the problems down at the sheriff's office because 2 of them are deputies, so they know some internal problems that are going on, and I see external problems besides internal problems, and one of the problems is property rights.
You talk about property rights, and what do you mean by that, and why is that so important to this election?
Well, that's what got me to run, was the fact that this gentleman had his property taken from him without any due process of law, and I'm a big constitutionalist. And if you don't own your own property, if you can't keep it without somebody taking it without your day in court, then we have a problem with that.
A lot of people are getting notice of liens placed on their possessions because of the alleged past due taxes, and what makes these liens unlawful in your mind?
Well, it's not just in my mind, it's the fact that what the law actually says. The lien has to be filed at the Secretary of State's office, but the notice of lien can be filed at the county clerk's office. And what's going on is they're filing the liens at the county clerk's office without any lien being there, and that's a violation of the Federal Liens Registration Act.
Okay, Mike, some people have questioned your experience in law enforcement as a concern. Should you be why you should be elected sheriff? What experience would you bring with you? What can you do to make you a successful sheriff?
Well, basically, the sheriff is a management position, and it shouldn't be political. And they get in a rut when it's always somebody that's been in law enforcement all the time without somebody from the outside looking in and saying, you got to stay with the Constitution. You've got to keep with the supreme law of the land. And so managing it and knowing when people are violating that and when some of your deputies are violating that, it has to be taken care of, and I see it.
How do you think the interagency relationship is between the Sheriff's Department, the Wyoming Highway Patrol, and the City Police Department?
Well, there has to be coordination between all of them, but the sheriff is the highest ranking law enforcement officer in any county. So it all answers to him to begin with, because the chief of police is not elected and neither is the head of the highway patrol. And the word sheriff, do you know where that came from? It came from over 1,000 years ago in England. When a village became 100 to 150 people, it was called a shire, like Yorkshire, Wiltshire, and they elected a reeve, R-E-E-V-E, that protected him on that shire, and he was the reeve of the shire, or the shire reeve.
Oh, I'll be
sheriff.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
How fascinating. Very, very interesting. Mike, what do you find is wrong with our current sheriff visiting Washington so frequently? Who in Washington knows what's going on in Laramie County, Wyoming?
Exactly. He's going to Washington because he's the second vice president of the National Sheriff's Association. And in order for him to be the president of the National Sheriff's Association, he has to be reelected. So basically, he's told his deputies that he's going to have to be reelected in order to get out there and be the president. And my question too is, who's going to fight for us in Washington? It's Washington that's causing all the problems. He should be back here fighting for our rights.
Mike, you've said that some people are concerned about the way of thinking in the sheriff's department, that it needs to change. In what way do you mean? What are you talking about this way?
Well, as an example, Gina, I ran into a deputy down there, and he said that I asked him if he took the oath to defend the Constitution, and he stated that he didn't want to go there. Well, I think every deputy in there should know the Constitution and should know what the law actually says, and that's not happening.
This would almost lead into, by them not cooperating with that question, to how you feel about the concerns, or what are your concerns about how traffic stops are done now and conducted in also relation to alcohol use and DUI, while driving, how these issues come up with what you were talking about, their constitutional rights.
Well, DUI checkpoints I'm against, because that's pulling over innocent people, and that's unconstitutional. And so I would be against that, but I'm against drunk driving too. So
Yes, of course. With the recent changes in the law permitting the use of marijuana in Colorado, what is your position on marijuana use in Laramie County and the probability of it crossing the border?
Well, Gina, it's going to cross the border, but we can't catch everyone, and the whole point is the safety issue of it. And we've got to see if they're driving erratically or they're behaving erratically, and if they are, then we need to check them out and see what it's all about. But we have to be consistent on what we do when we pull these people over, and we can't profile them.
How do you feel the undocumented persons within Laramie County should be handled by the Sheriff's Department?
Well, I'm not gonna send deputies out to seek the people out just to look for them, but usually when somebody's here undocumented or illegally, and they do something that's illegal, that's their behavior, then we have to do something about that. But once again, we're not gonna profile them just because they're a certain skin color or something. And I really feel sorry for these people that do come through the correct channels of immigration, and they go through all the training and learn English and all this. They've gone through all the hard stuff to be a citizen of this country, and it's really not fair to the people that just come in and violate all the laws and feed off of our system.
Lastly, I want to know, what is your concern with general warrants?
I'm totally against general warrants. General warrants are one of the reasons we kicked King George III out of this country, because you can't have a warrant to go in and look for something wrong. If you read the Fourth Amendment, it states in there that no warrant shall issue except by probable cause supported by oath or affirmation. And so to a general warrant, they're just saying that you can come in and look around and find something. Well, that's not what freedom and liberty is all about.
Well, Mike, are there any other issues that you would like to stress and that you feel the citizens of Laramie County should be aware of or should know that is very important to you and obviously will be to them?
Well, I want people of this county to know that, for instance, this guy in Wyoming that dammed up his creek on his property to build a little fishing pond for his family, got all the permits and everything for it, but the federal EPA comes in and wants to fine him $75,000 a day. Stuff like that, when OSHA's in there and they're trying to come in and do general warrants, I want people to know that I'm against the federal government coming in and stepping on our 10th Amendment rights. And I'm going to be there to help them if they get notice of levies or anything like that, a notice of lien or something like that. I'm going to take care of it for them. And so the sheriff is there to protect the people, and I want the people of this county to know I'm there to protect them. And I'm not going to be out of town in Washington or any place like that. I'll be here for them.
Mike, I certainly appreciate you taking your valuable time today to address these issues, inform the people. They need to be informed in Laramie County because when they go to the poll, they want to know, who am I voting for? And you've given us an insight as to what you believe, who you are, and I do appreciate that. And for our citizens, because it's obvious you're for the citizens of Laramie County.
Well, Gina, I work for the people. They don't work for me if I'm the sheriff. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate you being with us today.